Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the line, as he does most every week. Last week was an abomination or something or other. Ladies and gentlemen, he talks about movies and writes about them too. It's Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com. And real quick, abomination was not the word I was going for. It's just the word that kind of came out, and I just kept rolling with it.
Oh, I figure you're thinking like aberration or something.
Aberration, that's it. That's
Look, abomination's funny, okay? Abomination was funny. Own that.
Yeah, but it was one of those moments where you're talking and like you know the word, but something else comes out, and you just kind of like, okay, whatever. So, anyways,
I know that's like we're going to keep the conversation going. You know what I'm saying.
And then we break it down for another 30 seconds and talk about how I screwed up. Anyways, Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com is on the line with me. Hey, we've got a big week of movies. A couple new movies out this week that should be pretty good. We've got a lot of news out there, some interesting stuff, some weird stuff, and let's get into it. The big movie of the weekend, Marvel is giving us another go with Guardians Volume 3. You saw it. What did you think?
I loved it.
That's awesome. That's good to hear.
This is the first time in a long while that I felt this excited and pleased about a Marvel movie. It really did feel like the old school, like pre-Endgame run where things just felt right.
Okay.
Well, and it's another, again, part of that is probably because James Gunn hasn't been too slavishly tied to what's going to happen in the Marvel Universe. He hasn't had to set up so much with his actions and with his characters. I mean, sure, there's breadcrumbs that can be followed. There's things here and there that are laid out, but he hasn't had to be like some of these other movies where he has to fill in a certain gap of time with events, or he has to lead up directly to the next movie that's coming out. And as a result, this is one of the best Marvel movies. You know, there's a review running around out there saying that this is one of the best Marvel movies since Endgame. I would agree with that.
Really?
Because you're really following Rocket's story in this. The big crux of this is Rocket Raccoon, played by Bradley Cooper, also played by Sean Gunn for the mocap acting. He is James Gunn has gone on record recently, and Sean Gunn's also repeated this, that Rocket was the secret protagonist of the Guardians trilogy. This was secretly his story to begin with.
Really? That's cool.
This movie and this movie delivers on that. It doesn't deliver on it in a way, you could tell that was the truth. And if it wasn't the truth, then they did a really good job of making it the truth, because this isn't one of those things where it's like, oh, well, this one's for the fans. Then it's just like, like this is a fitting end to the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. Everybody's back. Everybody's on top form. It starts out rather depressing, and then there's several moments in this movie that are very gut punchy, and then it just sticks the landing so damn hard in the end.
That's awesome. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend on Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now. But we might get into, I don't want full-fledged spoilers or anything, but there's a couple questions I do have about this movie. And
I think we can have a spoiler session. You know what? We'll save the spoilers for the end, so that way people can, and we don't have to time travel this week, folks. We're recording all in one shot.
That's
Unless
crazy.
Something breaks or something happens. That's it, baby. This is magic.
When news breaks, we fix it.
Oh, I miss the old Daily Show.
No, so there might be a spoiler here. I'm not sure. Are there? So if you want to bail out now, this might be a good time. Are there post-credit scenes with this?
There are 2 post-credit scenes. Let's talk. Well, you know what? We will talk about this at the end. I have thoughts about it. But
okay.
I don't want people to just bail out on us completely. I mean,
well, they just did. I just set it up to have them bail.
Well, I hope they come back then.
Hey,
Bring
you guys!
them back.
Hey, come back! Maybe they heard me, maybe they didn't. I don't know. But anyways, all right. So
they saw how much is left on the show.
Okay, we'll talk about it at the end. I'll get those questions out of the way. What was the other movie you saw this week?
I saw this last week, and it's out in theaters now. If anybody is into the sport of Nazi killing, then the film Sisu.
It's a sport?
Well, to some. Certainly the way this guy does it. There is a kill in this movie where a landmine is hurled at a Nazi's head.
Oh, wow.
It hits the guy's forehead, goes click, and then you see boom.
Nice. I like it. So what's the name of this again?
Go in Sisu.
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 Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a Hungarian phrase that basically translates to white knuckle resolve, like doing what you have, whatever it takes, basically.
Okay.
And the man at the center of this film is not named Sisu, but he is a lonely prospector who runs into a battalion of Nazis that are fleeing. They sense that World War II is coming to an end in the next couple of days, and they're getting the hell out of Dodge. And this guy just happens to find a decent amount of gold.
Okay.
Before crossing these guys. So, he runs into part of the battalion. It's fine. Looks like we're not going to have a movie here. Then he runs into another group that's a little more belligerent, wants to steal this gold from him. And from that point on, it's on. Like he wanted nothing to do with this war. And then these guys personally attacked him, and it was go time.
It was on.
And yeah, before you expect there to be before you expect another Inglourious Bastard, this is similar in vein, but at the same time, there's more plot. Like it's only roughly about an hour and a half, and it's more than just kill. Oh no, sorry, it's more than Inglourious Basterds, where it's like a shorter version, but there's a lot of plot,
kill,
plot. Yeah, like there's really inventive kills here. And might I add, this is one of the best commercials for it, because they have a commercial that tells you the dog lives through the movie.
Oh, do they?
They literally have a commercial that says the dog, like right at the end, they show a nice close-up of the dog, and it's like, dog approved, or dog safe.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so this is a good one then.
Yeah. Oh, it is definitely a good one. I kind of wish that I got to see it in a theater, actually watch it through a screening link, because last week was just so busy. See also the reason why we didn't have a show last week.
The Abomination.
The Abomination, yes. Needless to say, it was just so much fun watching this and seeing the creative ways that enemies get carved up.
You know what?
Also having a really cool story and a mostly silent protagonist that has his story told by his enemies. And it was a really neat way to see the story unfold.
You know what? Next time you're feeling down, watch a movie about people murdering Nazis. You'll probably feel a little bit better.
You might. I mean, from what I heard, that is a craze, I guess. It's something that we did
I just want to. You call it a sport. Now I just want to see it as a sport.
I mean, when you have to come up with the different ways to dispatch of enemies, because again, it doesn't make it any easier than Inglourious Bastards set the tone for that sort of thing. And then this is the same year that Lionsgate also released John Wick 4.
Yeah.
So Lionsgate was helping release this movie, and I think they're the domestic distributor.
They're just Murder Inc.
Yeah, basically to have to come up with really new and exciting ways to get rid of your enemies. That's something.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me. So that kind of wraps up the movies for this week. Go see them both. We'll talk a little bit more about Guardians here a little bit later on. But over in the world of movie news, there's kind of a bunch of stories floating around out there, and they're all kind of on the same level. I don't think anyone is really dominating another one, but kind of an update to a story we talked about a few weeks ago. Jamie Foxx is still in the hospital as of May 3rd.
Yeah, I had heard that he, unfortunately, his film Back in Action, as well as the show Beat Shazam, they're going forward without him at the time. I don't know. From what I had heard, I think they're filming a lot of close-up and other shots that don't need him in Back in Action, or filming with a stand-in, so he can easily be dropped into the film when he's ready. But also, it just came through that Nick Cannon is going to be taking over as guest host for his show Beat Shazam.
Really?
Which, if I remember correctly, this is a game show where it was Jamie and his daughter Perrin. And it's kind of like Name That Tune, but I think what happens is the contestants have to beat Shazam in identifying a song.
Okay, yeah, I've vaguely heard about it, so.
So two teams go head-to-head and against the clock as they work to identify music's biggest hits. Eventually, the winning team must face off against Shazam. That's a description from The Hollywood Reporter.
Okay. Have we heard anything about what's wrong with him? What the health situation was?
I do not think we have.
Okay.
I think it's just still sort of been vague at this moment. They were running tests last we heard. I don't think there's been much update, and I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just not surprised, because maybe they're just baffled and I don't want to say anything too prematurely.
Yeah, okay. All right, so as we get more updates, we'll talk more about Jamie Foxx. The other story that's kind of sneaking up on people, and I don't think anybody kind of realizes how big this is, we're in another writer's strike.
Yep. So 15 years after the Writers Guild of America had to struck for things, among other things, DVD residuals. And I think there was also like residuals involving digital shorts that they would write for shows like The Office.
Yeah.
We are now currently in another strike scenario it happened midnight Pacific Tuesday morning.
Okay.
And the first, naturally with this sort of thing, the first sorts of projects that are hit by this are late night talk shows and shows like Saturday Night Live, where it's very topical and very like, you have writers rooms working every night of the week on a show like The Late Show with Stephen Colbert or Jimmy Kimmel Live. And you have your people working every day, sort of breaking the current news and writing sketches and getting guests. And that's obviously like the first front of this sort of thing. And there was even a story where apparently, and this is from the senior photo researcher on Fallon's show, Jimmy Fallon was not present for the meeting where his staff was initially told that they were not going to be paid after this week, and that they didn't know if they were going to be furloughed or just unemployed workers, and their benefits were going to terminate at the end of the month. An update then came down saying that not only are the Tonight Show writers going to be paid another 2 weeks, 1 week from NBC and 1 week out of Fallon's pocket. Late Nights with Seth Meyers is also getting that, and health benefits will be extended for those writers until September.
I was waiting for you to be a lot worse about Jimmy Fallon. Truth be told.
Look, it's my personal feelings about Jimmy Fallon aside. I side with the writers. What can I say?
Yeah.
As a writer and as a person that likes fair pay and a square deal, I hope that the WGA gets what they need. And it's, as you had mentioned, 15 years ago, this is the sort of scenario that put us into a spot where everything from importing TV shows from Canada over to the U.S. to having cable-edited versions of shows like Dexter, The Sopranos, and Battlestar Galactica airing on broadcast TV all had to happen. Like the show Flashpoint, which is, I think it was about a Canadian SWAT team, was brought over to CBS, and I think it was actually a hit, but it was imported to the domestic schedule because there was no writing, so they couldn't make new episodes because you can't touch those scripts unless you want to film with those scripts the way that they are.
I can't remember for sure because we were doing the morning show when the last time this happened, and I remember talking about it, and there was a couple like big time shows that were really popular that got kind of screwed up because of this.
Heroes was a big one.
That was one. Although
their second season plans got massively derailed.
Although Heroes never saved itself again.
Yeah.
Heroes was one of those shows that would have been magical if it would have just been one season and just left it there.
Probably. I never really watched it. I couldn't really get into it.
You know what it was? It was trying to figure out the connections in the show, because it was one of those type of deals where there was stuff to talk about with your friends about, oh, what's going on? What does this symbol mean? Who's this person connected to? Oh my God, this is in the past. There was water cooler talk with it. And then it went really weird. Like really weird. And truth be told, if you put a gun to my head right now, I don't know if I could explain to you what the different seasons were after that. Because it was that out there. Like you'd have one where people all of a sudden are villains and then they weren't. And then Sylar lost his powers and then he gained his powers and then something else. It was just weird. Like it was so all over the place that I don't know what happened.
And then you had other things happening, like 24 went off the air for a little while. Quantum of Solace went into production with an unfinished script, which a lot of people say killed it, but it kind of led to Daniel Craig's run as James Bond being episodic.
Okay.
So that kind of was a blessing in disguise. Some people even say that Lost was a better show that season because of it, but you can't ignore the fact that the last strike went for 100 days. The record for WGA strike out stoppages is 153 days that was set in 1988. This is, from what I'm understanding, part of this is, I think, streaming. I think part of it is the streaming realm needs some redefinition. But also one of the other things that's being brought up is AI and how it's used in writing. And apparently it was rejected. It was one of the things that was rejected in the proposal from the WGA, saying like, no, and this is rudimentary knowledge that I have that I'm pulling off the top of my head. If I am wrong about this, I do apologize. But from what it sounds like, the writers are like, hey, we don't want to be able to have AI manipulated as sort of a starter tool for a script, and then a writer can come in and like clean it up, quote unquote. And the studios are like, no.
Boy, the studio's trying to get around paying people. Shocking.
I know. Tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, and what have you. But
you know what?
Yeah,
you know what one I think is interesting, and I haven't heard, and I don't expect you to have an answer to this, but it's just one I thought of earlier this morning when I heard about the writer's strike for the first time. Is the WWE a part of this? Because they legitimately have writers.
So from what I understand, and just let me double check this because I saw something about this before, it is not apparently going to have an effect on the company.
Okay.
Apparently CEO Nick Khan confirmed the company's writers are not members of the union and business will proceed as usual, but he's hoping for a deal for the WGA. And another show that has this sort of loophole that's keeping it on air is Fox News' late night talk show Gutfield with Greg Gutfield.
Okay.
They have non-union writers, so they're allowed to stay on the air for America.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now as we talk about stuff. What else were we going to talk about? The Roddenberry thing.
Oh, yeah, because what week would it be if we didn't talk about Star Trek?
Oh, you told me you wanted to talk about
that
it.
Is me. That is me just busting your chops good-naturedly because we definitely need to talk about this.
Okay.
The minute you showed me, the minute I watched this clip you sent me, it's like, okay, if we don't talk about that after Picard, I don't know. There's too many threads that connect into Picard here.
Okay.
And since the show went off last week, we can prolong the magic.
All right. So, long story short, Picard wrapped up, and the kind of the payoff at the end, the fan service and all that, was the Enterprise D coming back. They salvaged the saucer section. They hooked it up with another star drive section, and it all of a sudden became the greatest starship ever fighting the Borg, which, listen, not believable in any stretch, but did that look awesome in the show. But anyways, it kind of snuck out on social media, but this video came out, and it's called Regeneration. It's 2 minutes long, and it's completely animated, and it's all about the salvaging of the saucer section and the salvaging of James T. Kirk.
Yeah.
So they show the saucer section, and Starfleet's there, getting things set up to salvage it and get it off the planet and all that, which is such a cool scene to see in like the fog on the valley where it went through the trees and all that. But at the very end, they did a very special person went to retrieve James Kirk's body, and it was a animated version of Spock. And it looked
like not just animated like cartoon, like we're talking about deep fake animation here.
Yes, it was really, really good. And there's a lot of stuff about this Roddenberry group and the people that did it. And I don't know the entire story to know the whole thing, but God, this should be canon. I know it's not, but this should be canon. This should, like, when it comes out as, when they put the box set out of Picard or whatever, they need to just include this as a delete, an extra scene. Or as like, what it would have been perfect as? It would have been perfect as a post-credit scene.
I was just about to say they should include it as a post-credit scene, especially if you're saying the Roddenberry group. Is this like Roddenberry's heirs put this together?
Hold on, I'm pulling up the thing. Oh, I just remembered something else we need to talk about.
Ooh, I'm always up for talking about more things.
Dune.
Yeah, we do.
So the video came out from the Octane Render Network. Their description on YouTube is, this channel is all about OTOY's product, Octane Render Network, and the media and content projects of the Roddenberry Archive, Alex Ross Archive, Beeple Archive. So
they're working with Archive.
Yes,
right.
yes. So anyways, it's just a very cool clip. It's really neat. If you get a chance, check it out. If you're into Star Trek, check it out. It's just very cool.
If you want to cry, check it out.
Real quick, the thing I realized, and I told you that I wanted to bring this up before we got off this subject. You know what I never realized about Star Trek Generations until I watched that video?
What?
You know how at the end of it, James Kirk dies when the bridge falls on him, right?
Yeah.
And where he is buried is up on top of that thing with a bunch of rocks. Picard had to drag his dead ass all the way up there to bury him.
Yep.
I had never thought about that until I watched this video. I'm looking around, I'm like, boy, that's nowhere near close to the bottom of the ravine where, James Kirk took this huge fall to die.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so now I'm picturing Patrick Stewart, Jean-Luc Picard, dragging his dead ass all the way up there. And he doesn't have blood on him or anything.
Well, because he's smart.
So it was just one of those moments I'm like, huh. They don't show that in the movie, do they?
Yeah, like he could have probably put him on like some sort of elevated, like levitating.
Yeah, but he didn't have any of that there, so.
Well, yeah, but they could have explained it.
Yeah, they could have, and then I wouldn't have these questions at the end. Anyways, moving along, and to wrap up this week, it came out yesterday, but the trailer is officially out now from Warner Brothers. We've got our first trailer for Dune Part 2.
Yes, indeed we do.
And you're excited about this.
Yeah, I am. I really enjoyed Dune. And I will say that I will put this on the record. I am not missing this in IMAX. I missed the first part in IMAX. And what makes me even more upset is they never brought the 3D version of IMAX, because IMAX domestically has kind of turned its back to 3D, unless you're James Cameron, or unless you count showing one showtime of your IMAX 3D format a day, like really supporting it. But, you had No Time to Die and IMAX, and Dune, Part 1, both had IMAX 3D releases in other countries, not here. That has to change this time, because I am not missing this in IMAX, and I am not missing this in 3D. So people better get their together.
I was going to say this, if I remember right, it just came out on HBO, didn't it?
No, it was a mix. This was back in those crazy, crazy days of the pandemic box office where HBO Max for all of 2021, I believe it was, released their films simultaneously on HBO Max and in theaters. That is not going to happen again anytime soon, especially with CEO David Zaslav kind of shaking the tree when it comes to streaming. And they've already said, like, we're not doing that anymore. Get it out of your head. It's not happening. But it'll probably be something like The Batman, where it goes like 45 days after, like there's a 45-day exclusivity window, and then at some point after that, it'll be on HBO Max. And it'll all depend on how well it does, because as we've seen with not only Top Gun Maverick, but also Avatar: The Way of Water, they have milked those theatrical windows for as much as they can get. And it was to the point where Top Gun Maverick came out last May. So you would figure maybe in the more recent model you would have it on home video and on streaming fairly quickly. That movie did not go to home video until, I want to say, October, and was not on streaming until Christmas.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it did that well. And now you've got Avatar: The Way of Water on digital. Like, you can rent it and buy it digitally. It's not on Disney Plus.
Oh, it was very funny about that. I may have sent it to you, I may not, but it's like, imagine taking 10 years to make your sequel and get beat by Puss in Boots.
Yeah, but that was only the reviews, like on Rotten Tomatoes. That's not money.
I know.
Although
it's very
Puss
funny
in Boots
though.
Did make it is. Oh, it totally is. Although Puss in Boots made quite a bit of money for itself in the theaters, so that's not exactly a slouch itself.
Yeah.
We're not quite back to normal just yet, but we're getting closer. And I'll be very curious to see how the Guardians numbers come out this weekend. But I would assume Dune Part 2 would probably do better than Part 1, just because of the fact that it's not going to HBO Max day one, and we're not in as restricted a box office as we used to be. I think when Dune Part 1 came out, it was still separate. It might have still been assigned separated seats.
Yeah. That
went the way of the dodo a long time ago. So, we'll see.
All right. That being said, Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joins us every Friday on the show. Mike, we'll let you get to it. Enjoy the movies this weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good one, man.
All right, so we're back. I didn't mean, I realized we never did the final on Guardians, so I apologize for the false ending there. False finish, like in the WWE, everybody. Real quick, and there may be some... Happens to the
Off
best
the
of us.
top rope!
Real quick, there may be some spoilers here. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I had asked about 2 credit scenes, and that's where we kind of were. There are credit scenes for this?
Yes. But the thing is, they don't really play into anything in another film.
Okay.
They're not real. They're not set up. Like, there's one that could technically be counted as a setup because we get to see our new lineup of Guardians out in the field.
Okay.
And there's a wonderful needle drop that brings us full circle in the Guardians trilogy.
Okay.
And then the final post-credit scene is just a sort of day in the life moment that is teasing the return of one of the characters.
Boy, this one's going to be interesting because you kind of touched on it a little bit ago to see, what the box office is going to be like. It's either going to be, I think it's going to be surprising one way or the other. I just don't know which way it's going to lead because people are either going to hear the reviews and say, okay, Marvel's back, or they've been so burned by Marvel for the last couple movies that they're like, you know what, we can wait. You know what I'm saying?
And see, all right, that is exactly why I'm glad that I was handed assignments for this because I was asked to do some of the interviews, which meant I had to actually go see this movie in its first press screening. I had to go to New York to go see it. Otherwise, I would have waited until this week and just done the 3D screening. But having gone to see it that early, I can definitely be a part of the people that are saying this is absolutely worth going to see because it's back to being Marvel at its best. It's back to being what we loved about these characters and this story, and it's because of the characters in the story, and because it doesn't have to, include a scene with Kang or include a scene about the Avengers. Like, I'm perfectly fine with this movie ending showing Star-Lord at home with his grandfather.
Okay.
Having a normal day for once, and I'm perfectly fine with the other credit sequence introducing us to the new Guardians roster and kind of showing them going into action. Like, they're the epitome of Marvel post-credit scenes in the sense that it adds to the story and they're nice notes to throw in. I almost wish that Marvel didn't feel like they had to have a post-credit scene in every film.
Yeah.
Because then there wouldn't be so much pressure to cook up, okay, we're going to introduce Winter Soldier in this. Okay, Baron von Strucker is going to be in here. And then you create these scenes, and the payoff's not always big. Like Baron von Strucker, unless you watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., did not amount to a hill of beans, and even then it wasn't that connected.
You know what?
So it's like, cool, okay.
You know what the post-credit scenes are kind of, and we've talked about this with some of the wrestling stuff before, but the post-credit scenes are almost, we can't miss you if you never go away. Like
exactly.
maybe every movie doesn't need a post-credit scene, or we don't need to be pushing towards something else because, frankly, Phase 5, I don't know. We had a kind of an idea of what they were going to lead to at some point when they were getting through Phase 1, right?
Kind of, yeah. Like they set it up that it was going to be the Avengers Initiative.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that, it's like, oh no, Thanos is coming. And then slowly we got to Thanos, and then Phase 4 begins, and it's just like, okay.
But the overwhelming thing of there was the idea was that the Avengers were coming. That was when all these first movies, that was what they were leading to. With all the Phase 5 movies so far, I don't know what I'm supposed to care about. Does that make sense?
Well, we're only 2 movies into Phase 5 right now, so it's kind of early. Phase 4 was the one that's like
okay.
Yeah,
Phase 4, Phase 5.
Ant-Man, Quantumania, I believe.
Yeah, it's like even, if you started at Phase 4, it's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to like here. I don't know which direction we're going.
It felt like a loose connection of stories involving grief and loss. But then again, you don't need a whole phase of that.
No. There's a lot of Marvel stuff that's been, it goes back to that saying about after Endgame, all the Marvel series and movies seems like side quests that you're going back to after you finish the game. Well,
a friend of mine did mention a good point about all of this. I'm going to shout out my dear friend Eric Francisco, who works over at Inverse. We were part of the same screening of Guardians, and we were riding the train home together. And he had reminded me of the fact that it was because of the pandemic that we had so many, that couple of years where it's like 4 Marvel movies and like 2 to 3 TV shows.
Yeah.
Like this stuff was supposed to be still at the usual pace of like 2 movies and a TV show that we're now going back to. But that threw a wrench in the gears, and then that in turn sort of accelerated the burnout, I guess.
Okay. All right. Well, Guardians out this weekend. Mike loves it. He thinks you should go see it. I am Groot.
I am Groot.